I bought the mirror from a roadside antique shop I wasn't supposed to find. You've probably seen places like it. Weathered boards, rusted wind chimes, and a porch that creaks even when no one's standing on it. The kind of store that feels like it appeared out of nowhere and disappears the moment you drive away. I hadn't planned to stop. I was just driving home after a long weekend alone in the mountains. My GPS had lost signal an hour ago, and I'd taken a wrong turn somewhere along the way. I pulled over, thinking maybe someone inside could point me toward the main highway again. The interior of the shop was dark, the kind of dimness that swallows you whole. It smelled of cinnamon and something older, dust perhaps, or wood that had never fully dried. The aisles were tight, filled with relics that seemed more haunted than antique. Cracked porcelain dolls, clocks with no hands, mismatched keys. That's when I saw it. The mirror wasn't hanging. It leaned against the far wall behind a stack of empty picture frames. Its frame was thick, heavy-looking, carved with twisting vines and unfamiliar floral shapes that felt just shy of threatening. There was something off about the glass. It wasn't reflective in the usual way. It shimmered faintly, like there was a fog between the surface and your reflection. Something you couldn't wipe away. I didn't know why I wanted it. It just felt important, like it was waiting for me. The shopkeeper didn't ask questions. He barely spoke, just rang it up. $30, cash only. As he handed me the receipt, he said something under his breath. "You'll see what's coming." I didn't think much of it at the time. Antique dealers love saying cryptic things. Makes the merchandise seem more mysterious. I brought the mirror home and hung it in the hallway across from my bedroom. It was too tall to fit anywhere else. At night, it greeted me every time I left my room for a drink of water or to use the bathroom. It was unassuming at first. The strange things didn't start immediately. It took about 3 days before I noticed anything unusual. The first time, I was brushing my teeth when I noticed movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned and saw myself in the mirror, finishing brushing, spitting, turning off the light. Only, I hadn't done those things yet. It was maybe a 10-second difference. A delay, I thought. I blinked hard. Maybe I was tired or half asleep. But the next night, the delay was longer. A minute or two. The reflection was me, but ahead of me. Sometimes by a minute, sometimes 10, sometimes hours. It wasn't immediate. It didn't mirror me. It mirrored what I was about to do. I began to test it. I'd wave and then stare into the glass to see the wave happen later. I wrote down the exact seconds. The delays changed. They grew. By the end of the first week, it was reflecting my actions before I even thought to do them. One morning, I walked past it and saw myself dressed differently, wearing a jacket I hadn't worn in years, carrying an umbrella I hadn't touched in months. It wasn't raining. The sky was clear. That afternoon, the clouds rolled in, a freak thunderstorm. I put on the jacket. I grabbed the umbrella. I realized I was beginning to act according to what I had seen, like the mirror was giving me a script. I started to worry, not just about what I was seeing, but how it was changing me. I'd lie awake at night, waiting for the hall light to flicker on as I passed by the mirror to use the bathroom, waiting to see who I was about to become. And then it showed me something I didn't recognize. A woman. She was standing in my living room in the reflection. She was pale, her hair damp like she'd just come in from the rain. She wore a yellow cardigan and had a faded scar just beneath her right eye. She wasn't there in real life, but the mirror showed her. And 24 hours later, so did my front door. She knocked once. When I opened it, she didn't introduce herself. She just looked over my shoulder into the hallway. "You moved it," she said quietly. What? "The mirror," she replied. "You moved it since the last time." That was the first time I felt cold, unnatural fear run through my spine. "Do I know you?" "No," she said, brushing past me into the living room like she'd been there before. "But I know what you're going through. I had one too." "You had a mirror?" "I still do," she said, eyes distant. But mine stopped working. Or I stopped listening. Either way, it's not done with me. Just waiting. They don't stop until they show you everything. She didn't stay long. She walked through the rooms like she was revisiting an old dream. Just before leaving, she paused in front of the mirror and whispered something I didn't catch. When I asked what she said, she turned and smiled, softly, sadly. "You'll understand tomorrow." That night, I barely slept. The mirror's reflection now showed me alone, but not still. I was pacing, crying, holding something in my hands, something sharp. The image was muted, but unmistakable. I was unraveling, breaking. And the next night, I did. No reason, no warning. Just a wave of panic, like an emotion had been implanted, blooming out of nowhere. I dropped to my knees in the hallway, eyes locked on the reflection of me doing the same. My reflection was always first. I always followed. Days passed. I stopped testing it. I avoided mirrors entirely. But I couldn't help looking when I passed by. Just a glance. That's all it took. The man appeared 3 days later. He was tall, too tall. His face was unfinished, like it had been erased. Blank skin stretched over where features should have been. He wore a long coat, one sleeve torn. He didn't move. He just stood in the background of the reflection, barely visible behind a door or standing in the corner of the room. The first time I saw him, I thought it was a trick of the light. But then he appeared again, closer. He never appeared in real life, just the mirror, always in tomorrow's reflection. I told myself it couldn't be real, until I caught myself in the mirror one morning, leaving the house. In the reflection, he followed, slowly, silently. That evening, I stayed out late, drove aimlessly until past midnight, but the mirror didn't care. The next morning, it showed me again. Only this time, I was lying on the floor, eyes wide, face twisted. And behind me, he stood, watching, head tilted like a curious child. That was the first time the mirror showed my death. I covered it that night, threw a blanket over the glass, unplugged every light in the hallway. But I couldn't sleep. I dreamt of the man, of cold breath on the back of my neck, of shadows stretching longer than they should. When I awoke, the blanket had fallen. The mirror had updated. I was now lying in bed, asleep. The man was inches away. I screamed. I ran to the mirror and smashed it with the first heavy thing I could find. A lamp, maybe. I don't remember. The sound was like bones snapping. Shards scattered across the hardwood. I collapsed on the floor, breathing in broken gasps, watching the glass slivers reflect fragments of me. It was over, I thought. But the next day, the hallway shimmered. The mirror was back. Whole. Waiting. I didn't hang it this time. I left it leaning against the wall, untouched. For days, it showed only darkness. But eventually, light returned. Not mine. Someone else's. A stranger's home. Different furniture. Different walls. But there I was. Still inside the glass, now just an observer, watching someone else, waiting for them to install the mirror, to find it, to believe they made the choice. It wasn't mine to break. It never was. Now I live without reflections. No mirrors, no glass, no screens when I can help it. But sometimes, in the shimmer of a puddle or the tint of a passing window, I see something that shouldn't be there. Not my reflection. Not me. Just a reminder. The future is always watching. And it's already decided who you'll become. Bathroom. Waiting to see who I was about to become.